Welcome back. I want to finish up this unit. This will be section 4 of unit 4, mainly dealing with mitosis. Pretty short little section here. It's mainly going to deal with two basic topics. One is multicellular life. Very rarely are we in here going to talk about organisms that are made of one cell. Those would be unicellular organisms or one-celled organisms. Most of the time we're talking about things that are made up of many cells or multicellular. And when we look at that, we will see with multicellular organisms, they're very advanced, they're very complicated, and their cells actually work together in different ways. We'll see that all cells are not the same. So far, we've just kind of been looking at what we call the generic cell, like those diagrams with plant and animal cells. Our cells don't really look like that in humans. Because they're specialized. In most organisms, they're not going to look exactly like that. That's just a very general way of saying, hey, here's all these organelles, here's what they look like. But when it comes down to the specialized type of cells that we see in multicellular organisms, they look far different. So let's just take a look. This is a great little diagram showing you that cells work together to form tissues, tissues work together to form organs, organs work together to form organ systems, and then even organ systems work together to form organisms, which are all living things. So let's look a little closer at all these different levels. So the cell is the basic unit of life. We've talked about that before. Hopefully you knew that. But tissues are groups of cells. I shouldn't say or, but groups of cells that work together to perform a particular function. So say there might be cells in our body. I like to use anatomy, the human anatomy, just as examples. Cells in our body may come together to work together to form things like muscle tissue or connective tissue or nervous tissue. So they work together to form these different tissues. Then tissues work together to form organs. So if we're talking about things like the brain or the stomach or even the skin, these are organs that are made up of groups of tissues, which those tissues are made up of groups of cells. Organ systems are organs that work together to carry out a similar function. We can think about in humans things like the digestive system is a collection of many different organs that work together for the similar function of taking in food, breaking down food, and then expelling wastes. So you eat that taco for lunch, your stomach, your esophagus carries it down to your stomach breaks it down, then it moves it on into your intestines that absorb out all the different compounds and molecules that make up that taco, and then it takes it into your body, absorbs it into your body. It moves through your small intestine into your large intestine where the water that any water that was in there is siphoned out and used in the body, and then it expels it from your body as a waste product. That means you go number 2. So organ systems like the digestive system are many organs that work together for a similar function. Organ systems work together to maintain homeostasis. Homeostasis is simply that state of normalcy. It's where every organism wants to be. In regards to its environment. So we want the temperature to be just so. We want the moisture to be just so. We want our food sources to be readily available. All this. There are organ systems. I like to use the human just as that's who we are. But all organisms have organ systems. Plants have different types of organ systems that work in it, from it being a root system or a vascular system that moves water and nutrients through the plant. Even leaves of a lot of plants themselves are organs. Skip that slide. So the thing about cells that we mentioned a minute ago is they're typically specialized. They're not really this general type cell. Cell differentiation is the process by which unspecialized cells developed into a mature form and function. So a lot of times our cells, when they go through mitosis, they may start out as this unspecialized cell. They've yet to take on all of the forms and the looks and the structure of the cells that they're going to be. Now, when that cell goes through mitosis, it does have a full set of DNA. Remember, in the the synthesis stage of the cell cycle, that one cell will duplicate its DNA, and then through mitosis, the nucleus, and then cytokinesis, the entire cell splits into 2. So we've got these exact identical copies of DNA. And this new cell that comes up, it may not be specialized right away, but it does have a full set of DNA. Now, from that, it will specialize. It'll become, whether it's a muscle cell or a nervous cell or a skin cell, all these different things. Now, every cell has a full set of DNA, but it only uses certain genes and then becomes specific. So if we were to take a nerve cell out of your body, it's got the full gamut of DNA that you have in every one of your cells, but it's going to only use certain parts of that DNA to do its job. It's still got the code for what color your hair is going to be, right? But that nervous cell is only doing its job in the nervous system, carrying out signals throughout the body. So when they become specialized through cell differentiation, they're only going to use certain genes of that DNA. There's very special cells in our bodies and other organisms as well called stem cells. Stem cells have yet to take on the specialization that they're going to. They're very unique. They can divide and renew themselves for long periods of time. So one stem cell can become 2, 2 become 4, 4 become 8, become 16, before the even original one, specializes. So you can have these groups of stem cells that haven't yet taken a role, I guess is a good way to think about it. They remain undifferentiated, and then they can develop into a variety of specialized cell types. Typically, they'll become whatever they're around. So these stem cells, you might have heard of stem cells before in stem cell research. It's kind of a fairly controversial topic, and we're going to look at why. I think y'all are old enough to kind of look at the sides of this debate. So let's learn a little more about stem cells. They can be categorized by their ability or potential to develop into differentiated cell types in different tissues. We're not going to spend a lot of time with this. The main things I wanted you to talk about is there's two main types of stem cells. Let me get a water. Sorry, I needed a drink of water. One is adult stem cells, or that name says, oh, just adults, but this is matured stem cells. So even as an adolescent right now, you have adult stem cells. These are partially undifferentiated or partially specialized cells. They're located among all the specialized cells that you have in your body. So let's say we're talking about muscle cells inside the heart. Okay, that's cardiac muscle. These individual cells that make up the heart tissue, there'll be some stem cells scattered amongst them. And they haven't yet become these cardiac muscle tissues that make up the heart, but they most likely will become those. They're located among those specialized cells, around those organs and tissues, and they're most likely going to become those through various ways. Enzymes primarily released from the other cells will cause these stem cells to specialize and become cardiac tissue. Then there's also embryonic stem cells. In an embryo, in anatomy, especially in 2 years, we'll discuss what embryos are and things like that with reproductive system. But this is an unborn child. This is a group of cells that we haven't talked about meiosis yet, but have the DNA from both parents, male and female, and they've started going through mitosis and making more and more of them, but they haven't specialized. That's why they're stem cells. So embryonic stem cells come from donated embryos grown in a clinic. Also, you can get embryonic stem cells from the umbilical cord. Excuse me, I forgot the word I was looking for. The umbilical cord of a newborn. It's very rich in stem cells, these embryonic stem cells that have yet to become specialized. And that's where you get a lot of embryonic stem cells that we hear about in research. Now, last slide. Stem cells have long been used to treat things like leukemia and lymphoma, two types of cancers that we learned a little bit about cancers in section 3. Stem cells can also be used to repair damaged organs. They might be used for things like that, or to cure diseases, things like diabetes. The controversy lies of why people on one side say we should definitely look more and invest more money in stem cell research because it has shown to be pretty good at repairing these different organs or tissues that are damaged, or even curing certain diseases. Things like Parkinson's disease. There's a guy named Michael J. Fox. He's an actor. He's in the movie Back to the Future, if you've ever seen that trilogy. He's Marty McFly, but he's been diagnosed with Parkinson's. He has a foundation that's really, really pushing for stem cell research, obviously because he would love to be cured. It is a uncurable disease at this point. You can just kind of treat it. So they poured a lot of money into trying to research stem cells. So they're all about trying to get stem cells, harvest stem cells from adults and embryonic stem cells. So, hopefully find cures. The other side of the debate also has some good points, particularly about embryonic stem cells. Their whole point is if we start researching with embryonic stem cells and they show good progress, people could go down the route of, going through with abortions and things like that, or harvesting unborn children to have their embryos. Now, we got to understand a lot of these big foundations that are for stem cell research do have that stipulation of we're not taking, aborted babies or anything like that. We would rather harvest it from things like umbilical cords, or if there are miscarriages and things like that that happen naturally, we don't want those stem cells to go to waste. I'll let you, kind of research that a little more and see what side of the debate you want on. I do think stem cell research is a growing field. It's one worth knowing about. When we get to anatomy, we'll discuss it more in depth, and that may be 2 years away for you. So who knows what will be researched by that point. Just wanted you to know a little bit about stem cells because I think it will be something you'll hear more and more about in the news, and it's worth you taking the time to understand and to kind of make up your mind to where you see that going, because it is going to be something that hopefully will research more in your lifetime. So anyway, if you got questions, feel free to email me, or if you're in class with me, you can talk about it. And this is the end of your notes. So if you've got some notes that you haven't got filled in, you need to go back and watch one of these 4-part videos. Hopefully these have been good for you. You'll use these notes to complete assignments and also to help study for your exam that's coming up quickly.